we now have a really good dedicated team that are not VAs. They are assistants, and they are assistants in one sense, but they're our staff in another
You
sense.
just
They
happen
just
to live in a
happen to be
different
in the
country.
Philippines.
Yeah.
They just happen to live in a different country. That's all.
Yeah.
And the results that we've been getting have been very, very good.
Welcome to Offshore to Profits. I have a special guest who I've known for many years. Bob, do you mind introducing yourself? What do you do? How do you help your customers? And then we're going to set the frame for today's call.
Sure. My name is Bob Woods. I am, we're just juggling around with titles right now with me. It looks like I'm going to be the Chief AI Officer of Social Sales Link, because one of the things that we are getting into pretty heavily now is artificial intelligence and generative AI and all those types of things. But what it all comes down to is using LinkedIn and social selling to help salespeople and sales teams and entrepreneurs and coaches and people like that to get to that all important first conversation without being salesy. And we use tools like LinkedIn and all the things that we do in social selling to help them accomplish that huge goal. Because if you don't have the conversations, you ain't selling.
That is fantastic. Now I'm going to set the frame for today's conversation through a story. So we needed somebody to not only tackle customer support, but actually lead customer success. And this is for my second company, as we would just launched, called Pipeline Signals. Mm-hmm. And at that time, we had teammates balanced between Philippines and Bangladesh. So this was going to be a very customer-facing role that required a whole other level of communication at the video and phone level. So we thought that the Philippines would be the best bet. In my book, Offshore to Profits, I talk about level 1, 2, and 3 talent skills. So think of a boat, a crewman versus officers versus the captain. So I'm looking for officers. Long and the short, we hire somebody out of the Philippines. Now, during the interview process, she has incredible verbal communication, absolutely outstanding. She jumps in, feet first, into customer success. A bunch of weeks later, or maybe a month later, I get calls from customers that say, like, we got a bit of a problem because the person in your customer success, we don't understand what she's saying when she's writing us. I thought, well, that's weird. I mean, like, her ability to articulate in the English language verbally, you would think she was your next door neighbor. I was floored. Well, we'll take a look at some of her emails. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. They imagine, anybody who's my age, I'm 45, and if you have children, and if you watch how they write in text form and emojis. Well, right. She wrote the same way you would Slack message somebody or like text them. Shorthand, emojis, images, these sort of things. And so then I asked her to correct it, but she actually couldn't correct it. So this continued to snowball as a problem. Every time I'd say, well, you got to kind of finalize your sentences. It just always came in as shorthand because the way that she had written communication had always been through a text-based like program, like WhatsApp. And it was my failing. Because what I had not done is I had not actually used that as a filter. And ever since then, I have verbal communication tests like video, and I have written communication tests. That's my story around a failed start and stop. So I'm going to pass the ball to Bob. Bob's used offshoring for years, and he's had some successes and failures and some false starts. Bob, why don't you cue up for us where you've been, what were some of your learnings, and how did you apply those learnings to obviously be wildly successful with it right now?
Yeah, so we were at a point several years ago where we knew that we had, with everything that we wanted to do when we promote ourselves, which goes way beyond, one of the things that we teach is like, we share ourselves, and we when it comes to like social media postings and things like that, and all that has to be in our own voices, and we still do that type of thing to this day. One of the things that we also do as a company, the company also has its own voice, and it's distinctive, and it's kind of an amalgamation of all of us together, but we definitely do have certain ways that we say things, certain phrasing, certain marketing threads, and things like that. So as we decided that we really wanted to push into social media when it came to promoting ourselves as a company, as Social Sales Link, rather than Brent Tillman or myself or now Stan Robinson Jr., we decided that we needed help. So we got hooked up with a virtual assistant company at that point in time. And kind of long story short, they were doing okay with it, but they didn't have the voice of Social Sales Link. They didn't understand exactly what we were doing. They didn't know how to communicate as the company. And I actually put a lot of that just on the fact that they're virtual assistants to a lot of different people. And, even though we did have dedicated people, even those dedicated people were working with other clients. So they couldn't necessarily concentrate on us 24/7, which is totally understandable. People got to run a business. You got to have volume coming in. Totally get that. Didn't have a problem with with the situation. We just needed to change our situation. So Bryn had been working with a VA who also did a lot of her own things, and at the time, but she had worked with this VA at another company. So she went to this gal and said, "Hey, Kath, I want to bring you in. I also want to build a team that is really dedicated to us and to what we do, so that they get to familiarize themselves with exactly how we do things, so that it doesn't appear that other people are handling that side of the messaging, and yet when Bryn's sharing, when I'm sharing, or whatever, it sounds basically different, and it looks different, and all that other type of stuff." So Kath was able to put together a team that, after a while, because this stuff doesn't happen instantly, of course. So, after training, and after exposure, and after a willingness on their part to really learn who we are and what we do and how to speak like the company, we now have a really good dedicated team that are not VAs. They are assistants, and they are assistants in one sense, but they're our staff in another
You
sense.
just
They
happen to
just
live in
happen
a
to be
different
in the
country.
Philippines.
Yeah.
They just happen to live in a different country. That's all.
Yeah.
And the results that we've been getting have been very, very good. Every once in a while there might be a miss on some things, which is totally understandable, because we create our own training. We know what we're talking about, and sometimes people just don't get that, and it's not their fault. They're just not as tight with the material and the content as we are. So there might be some missteps every once in a while, but generally speaking, it works very, very well.
Now, if you were speaking to a founder and they have all kinds of tasks and projects that just keep piling up, can you help them walk through first the mindset that they need to overcome, legacy biases, fears, apprehensions about this idea of having somebody offshore, or even a team offshore? That's part A. And then part B, what are the questions they should ask themselves, or the process they should go through to get to the outcome that you've gotten to, where your team is profitable, it's growing, it's scaling because it understands operating leverage. There are certain tasks that are $5 an hour, and there are certain tasks that are $500 an hour value creators.
Yep.
So do you mind? I know that those are two big chunky questions, but first walk everybody through How do you overcome the mindset, and then what's kind of like the skill set toolkit you put in place to become successful?
Yeah, so overcoming the mindset, I think really has to do with I think you first have to determine how much um, how much work are you going to have this person or this team, depending on what you have going on, actually do, and that should probably guide you from between um, thinking about more of a virtual assistant type of firm, which is the first situation that we were in, or eventually going towards what we did and actually having a dedicated team there. If you're like us and you're more of the idea people and you're generating content, yeah, for us specifically, um, you're generating courses and ebooks and all of that other type of stuff, you're probably going to want to go in the more dedicated direction, so that you're really working with people who get you and who will continue to get you. And I think that that's probably key, is the continuation part. You're really developing a relationship with these people, just like employees. They're just not, they're just not employees, but we have very smart people working for us. They just happen to be somewhere else. So I mean, you really treat them on that, you know, I peer to peer might be slightly strong, but it's really not at the same time. I mean, because with some of the people we have and some of the specialties that they have, like one gal does video, one gal does marketing copy, one guy does all of our social, as well as graphics and things like that. These people have minds, these people get what you're doing, and they also want to help you out. So not only treat them peer to peer just in terms of what you're giving them in terms of work, but just like an employee, you're looking to them for their opinions and for their guidance too. I mean, they have great ideas that we use as well. Some, I don't remember the situation, but someone made a great suggestion today. I wish I could remember what it was. I can't. But it was a great suggestion, and we're going to use it now because they're peer to peer.
Yeah. Now, how big do you think you can take it? How bold? How big are you thinking when it comes to offshoring? As you've already done task mastery, we'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
What about middle management, full project management, even towards operational leadership? How big do you think you could take this?
Yeah, so already, the gal Kath, who I was talking about before, she actually has kind of a VP role within the company now. So she is acting as, I mean, Bryn always jokes that she runs the company. She really kind of does run the company. So in terms of all of the project management tasks and everything else, we've already been able to put her in that position. And it's like something comes up, email Kath. You need something, email Kath, and she'll figure out. So we're already at that point, which I think is absolutely huge for us. In fact, we've been so successful with it. There are certain initiatives that we have going on internally that we are now able to resell as products to our clients, so that what they've done for us, we now done for other people. A great example of that is we have something called prospecting by interview as one of our products, and we had to have that set up internally and us trial that in internally, to where we are interviewing prospects for ebooks, and we're actually publishing the ebook. So it's not this, there's nothing untoward happening here. We pick a subject, we then get these prospects in and we interview them, and then we publish the ebook. They can have it or whatever, but at that point, we also are able to potentially start a sales conversation with them, depending on what we bring up during these interviews. So we've been able to do this successfully ourselves. We're now offering that to other to other clients. And because we have the team to do it, we scale that up and we just go forth and do it.
Yeah, we ended up doing something similar. Our offshore team, I had teammates that would, we call it digital prospecting. They would log in as myself, VPN in as
Mm-hmm.
myself in LinkedIn, and I
Yep.
would design the campaigns, meaning the ideal customer profile we want to engage and
Mm-hmm.
the messaging cadence and sequences. The outcomes were huge. I needed the $500 an hour outcomes of booked meetings in LinkedIn, but I didn't have
Right.
the time for the $5 an hour task. Well,
Yep.
the very process we created became a product. And now we have dozens of customers who we then manage their LinkedIn. So this is fantastic. Bob, how does the audience, if they want to get a hold of you to learn more, and also Social Sales Link, what are best ways to learn more about your business?
Well, I mean, the easiest thing to do is LinkedIn. You can just get to me direct on LinkedIn. I'm at /Bob Woods. Just search me up on Social Sales Link. The website is socialsaleslink.com. If you want to get in touch with me directly, socialsaleslink.com/Bob. I've got the almost now standard Calendly calendar up there now. You can go ahead and book, and we can talk about social selling, what we've done with offshoring. We're doing, like I said before, a lot with AI and sales now, and coming out with just a whole bunch of new things surrounding that. Because guess what? AI ain't going away, so we have to embrace it.
Yeah. No, this is fantastic. Bob, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Jamie.
Take care.